Welcome to a new show that we have, Manning Up. What it's not a new, but Deborah Manning is not new to me. We've had about 2 years of conversations with Deborah, and you're heard exclusively on MalcolmPresents.com, a streaming platform heard around the world and beyond. Where it's hitting, when the spaceships go up, you can hear me and see us. Anyway, Deborah, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Malcolm?
I'm pretty good. And basically, our show is going to be, well, the name of the show is Manning Up. And we're going to basically be talking about one or maybe two topics per week, going
Mhm.
from any place from 15 minutes to a half hour. But just basically, we're talking about the news, what's happening of that week or the week before, because I think we're going to be doing it at this time on Fridays.
I think we probably will be. I
Which,
think we
which
probably will be.
at my time, it's 1 p.m. and Deborah's time is 4 p.m. And I think right
So,
now, I think we want to start off with the weather for this show because that seems to be the thing that's really uh, affecting most people in the world.
yeah, it's a topic. I'm here in South Carolina. My name is Deborah Manning. That's the reason we use the name of the show called Manning Up. And I wanted to do this show because the topic essentially is self-responsibility, self-reliance, self-control. I think it's very important to man up. And that's really the reason that I wanted to go ahead and do this. I moved to South Carolina with my dear husband and two adorable kitty cats from my native Southern California. I was born in Los Angeles and decided to make a decision, a life-changing decision to come here to, of all places, Greenville, South Carolina, a place I had never been. I discovered it on Zoom, and one of my best friends had bought some property here and said, "You've got to come to Greenville." And I, at that point, said, "There's no way I'm going to South Carolina.
You
I'm
said
a California girl."
Greenville
Yeah,
with a question
I'm,
mark.
that's it. I'm a California girl. There's just no way. But it turned out that Greenville is a very interesting, a very inviting place, simply unbelievably affordable. And that was a key to the decision. And as I say, I wanted to kind of share my experiences because I think many people have a tendency, especially these days, to think that they've got no way out, that their life is the life that they're going to live, and that's just the way it is. Well, it's not. The reason I wanted to do this program, once again, I wanted to talk about self-reliance, and part of the self-reliance come with the weather. We have weather here in Southern California, not really weather, okay? So on Tuesday, we had a storm come through, thanks to California, but it came through and it ended up leaving almost 7 inches of rain. That's about as much as we normally get in a month, but that happened in one day. And some of the things that we had to go ahead and do is to make sure that we didn't have flooding in the basement, we didn't have flooding in the house, et cetera, et cetera. So you've had to be prepared. Right now, we've got another storm that's coming in that apparently is just decimating parts north of us. And we're right now, the storm started a little less than an hour ago. I'm looking at the clock right now. It's 10 minutes after 4. And we're at 0.81 inches of rain. And it's still a coming. It is still a coming. So, as I say, when we talk about manning up, it's talking about self-reliance because things are different these days, needless to say. And I do believe that an attitude of taking care of yourself, your family, your community, your town is very, very important. America is changing, and we've already seen it. And regardless of who's president or who your representative is, any of those things, you need to be able to rely on yourself and rely on your family and rely on your neighbors, but most importantly, yourself. The situation with victimhood, enough is enough. I don't want to be talking about the situation with all the victims and blah, 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 and all of that. Let me read some of the reasons that I wanted to go onto the show. I think we have a responsibility as a citizen to our neighborhood, to our town, to our state, We can't really do a whole heck of a lot about the nation these days. And where the prior show talked a lot about politics, um, I don't know that it really got us much of any place because at this point right now, it's a dire situation, and we need to come back into ourselves, find that peace, find that calm, and get ready for the worst. Because I do believe we are about ready to go into the worst that America has seen in quite some
Yeah.
time.
Well,
All
we're going
that
to be
being said,
talking. We're going to be
no, all
talking
that,
about a lot of things. I mean, a
yeah,
lot of it is what's happening in the world, what's happening,
yeah.
but basically, what's happening that's new this week or last week that we can talk.
Mhm. Well, interestingly enough, I've become very involved now with local politics. And I think that's one of the things, one of the responsibilities that you have as a citizen here in the United States. You need to get involved with local politics. And by that I mean you need to make sure that you're contacting your local representatives. My local representative certainly knows me. And it's important that you're able to give praise to, for example, in this case, we have county council members, and also criticism. I've attended a number of meetings and I'm involved locally with the politics here, and not end up screaming at these lawmakers because they're people too, but laying out a situation to make things understandable. Oh, there's a lightning.
Uh-uh.
Gonna come a crash in just a second here. Yeah, I'll tell you, we have the lightning storms here are quite phenomenal. They are quite phenomenal. And the windstorms are quite phenomenal. But it's important that our lawmakers know the things that they're doing right, the things that they're doing wrong. And they need to hear from us, not screaming at them, but talking to them quietly and making a difference. And we can certainly make a difference.
Well, the only thing I wonder, you talk with your, I agree with you. You have to speak to
Mhm.
your local people, but how many persons does your local politician represent versus, let's say, in California or New York? I don't know if it's broken down like, our congressman here. I don't know how many people he represents versus your congressman there. I assume it's a lot less.
It could be a lot less, but I have to say, they won't know you and they won't know what your concerns are if you stay quiet. You've got to let them know what is bothering you. For example, we had a situation involving CNN on the library big screens and what have you. I was very much opposed to that, as was my husband, and we just methodically ended up saying what we needed to say, which was you can't favor one TV station over another TV station. And we were accused, well, you want to have Fox on. And I said, no, I don't. This is a library. And I bet you probably can find things like maybe the Animal Channel. You can find other sources rather than CNN that's touting a single viewpoint.
Well, then
Um,
that would be not including news then. You would want other type of topics on the
Absolutely. I would like to have information rather than propaganda, because at this point right now, and I'm a former news reporter myself, I'm proud to be in Los Angeles and did quite a bit of reporting. I have lots of awards and blah blah blah, all the awards that I could possibly handle. Um, but the problem at this point right now is there seems to be a political agenda with the news media, whether it be Fox News, whether it be CNN, MSNBC. There's an agenda on all of these reports, and I don't subscribe to that. We need good, solid information. And most of the solid information you can get all by yourself is in your direct neighborhood. And as I understand the point you make that well, there's a lot more people that lawmakers represent in California, for example, versus South Carolina. But I do have to say, they need to hear from us. They
oh
need to hear
yeah.
from you, Malcolm. They need to know what your concerns are, and they need to know if they're doing something right and they're doing something wrong. For example, I just spoke with my county councilman, which is a board of supervisor person, and we're concerned about runaway growth here in South Carolina. And the problem is septic tanks. Septic tanks end up when you're out in the wilderness of South Carolina. That's the way that people take care of the sewage problem. The unfortunate situation is, as we are continuing to grow, there's more and more septic tanks that are coming through. And the problem is, it's destroying the quality of the water. Now, you and I go around and around about climate change and pollution and all of these types of things. As far as I'm concerned, you can't have a septic tank for crying out loud. They're just going to be destroying the water quality because I don't want to give up good water quality at this point. But we were able to get that through county council. And once again, not by ranting and raving, not by screaming, but by talking quietly to the county council members and telling them what our concerns are. And of course, people said to me, oh, you're anti-growth. No, I'm not anti-growth because it's the growth of South Carolina here in Greenville that brought me here. But I am against destroying the water table and the water quality. So that's one example.
Well, there's a balance, which people don't understand. There's a balance between these two things. You can't have, you know, there are certain things in modern society like growth that people have to have certain, facilities, as they grow, as they build houses, as these, forests or fields, all of a sudden, the forest is knocked down for houses. How much do we knock it down? How much do we destroy the forest to build houses? It's a delicate problem. But as I was going to say, in California, at least over here, our Congress people and our local assembly people and council people are always emailing me or sending me, information packages. Saying, what do you think? What do you want?
And do you respond back?
I respond. Sometimes I respond if the things that I'm interested in, things that I'm not interested in, actually, I don't respond.
What are some of the key topics in your area? Now you live in what area of the state do you live? Once again,
I live in Sherman Oaks.
Okay.
Sherman Oaks,
And so
which
what
is
are
the
the issues
San
in
Fernando
Sherman
Valley.
Oaks?
The big thing is what to do with the homeless and what to do with people living on the street. And I haven't come up with any answers or what to do. It's it's a conundrum. Obviously you don't want them in your neighborhood. But where do you put people like that? Where do you build houses? Where do you build affordable houses? Who pays for it? The thing that I again with the homeless, the problem is they treat the homeless like as a homogeneous group. There are lots of reasons for homelessness, and I remember I used to work with homeless group back 30 years ago. And then mainly it was, alcoholics, people, men who were, that had the post-war syndromes. They were alcoholics, drug addicts. And now you go in the streets and you see families. You see women with children, little children, and it sort of like breaks your heart. Can you imagine, as if your childhood was living on the street with your mother and living in a tent?
No.
But again, what do you do? And added on to this, of course, now is the immigration problem, which is a whole nother thing. But basically, it's coming into that same thing. These are people that are living out on the street.
Well, not exactly out on the street. Many of them are living in things like high schools and hotels, for example, in New York City.
Yeah, well, New York, but they're treated like cattle. They move from one place to another without even being talked to. That's what's again, I understand why Texas and parts of Texas and the Arizona that have all the income of the immigrants, coming out of Mexico, and not Mexicans, but the immigrants that are coming from Mexico, they're shipping them to different parts of the country. Like, oh, it's not our problem, but no, but it's the problem of the United States.
But they have to. I mean, they're getting so many people that, it's been very interesting. We have 5.1 million people here in South Carolina. Do you realize that the number of immigrants that have come across the border, both north and south, but mostly south, um, is twice the population of South Carolina. And what do you do in a situation like that? And the problem at this point right now, of course, is we don't know who these people are. We don't know what their intentions are. And I don't think that it's being racist. I don't think it's being unfair to ask these questions because there's only so much that you can do. For example, I just heard in New York City, in the Bronx, that kids were sent home to do Zoom learning and immigrants were moved into their high school. I don't understand
Right. Well,
concept.
yeah, that's a whole nother topic which we should cover one time. But it's one time, yeah, many times. But it's because the United States does not have an immigration policy. We need an immigration policy that's enforced, and not the way the certain people want to enforce it. We have to do a certain humane type of immigration
What
policy.
if you were a lawmaker, what would you suggest? What do you think should happen?
Well, I don't think I didn't want to
No.
get
I don't
into
want to pin you down, but I mean, we can explore ideas as two smart individuals, okay?
it.
And we can explore some different types of ideas as to how to solve a situation.
Well, we don't have enough people at the border interviewing these people. Interviewing, why do you want to come to this country? Are you a family? Are you running away from poverty? Can you work here? Uh, do you have any skills in your home country? Or are you afraid of your life? I mean, I know some people, from Central America where the gangs are killing them.
Now, unfortunately, they're coming up here and killing them.
Yeah, but I mean, the question is, you have to get out. You have to get out of your country. And at one time, the United States was a place to come to, and most people integrated well. I mean, I think it was, I forget what it was. I think like a large percentage of our workforce, I think is like 28% or something, is immigrants.
Oh,
And yes,
there's no question about that. The only question is, for example, let me give you a real solid example of things gone awry. Next door, we have a rental property, and that rental property was rented out one night, literally, where a half a dozen trucks showed up. I'd say about 40 individuals showed up a couple minutes past midnight and quote unquote moved in. Okay, moved in. It turned out that these particular individuals um, were a Mexican cartel. The only reason I happen to know that is that I'm not stupid and I can look and I can observe. And I was observing drug sales going on. I was observing prostitution going on. And what was even worse was I was observing child trafficking going on. Um, I spoke with one of the girls that was living there. Okay. And it's a 700 square foot, two-bedroom house with one bath. So technically only four people can live there, but there were probably close to 15, 20, 30 people at any one time living there, quote unquote, living there. And I spoke to the young lady and I said, you're certainly welcome here, but it's not civilized to be running drugs, running prostitution, and especially child trafficking. It's just not the way it's done. It may have been done in your country, and I didn't mean to be racist or anything, but that's not the way it's done. It took us, actually, the individual that one of the individuals was there after I spoke with the girl, threatened to kill me, and we in fact had a drive-by shooting. We had a drive-by shooting in our neighborhood. The police came out and said, well, it's no big deal because you can actually discharge a weapon here in South Carolina. I said, okay, perfect. I'll put together my target shooting in the backyard. Okay.
Mhm.
We went down and we found a shell, Luger, went down to the police department, and the police officer, of course, had given up and had decided not to file a police report. And we insisted that he file a police report. So we did. And we ended up getting a master deputy out here to look at the situation. And he said it was quite serious and that what I had observed was absolutely true and that he would work on getting things straightened out. It took us 7 months to move people on out. And the problem was, is many of the people in the neighborhood basically gave up. Once again, in terms of manning up, you can't give up.
Right,
You
you
cannot
have
give
to get
up. The
involved.
neighborhood, and when I spoke with the young lady again, I said, do not be doing these things. This is not civilized. This is not what you came to this country for.
Well,
And she agreed.
a lot of them have no, especially the ones who are working as prostitutes or drugs. They may not have any uh, uh, a choice in things because a lot of them, come
That's
from
no
the
excuse,
yeah.
Malcolm. That's no excuse.
No. I know, but if you're
For
if the
God's sakes, go work at Kmart, okay?
No, I'm not talking about the work, but if the gangs say, if we don't do this, we know where your parents live in Mexico or in El Salvador or in some of the other countries, and we're going to kill them, and they would.
I understand that, but the problem is somehow civilization has got to say enough is enough. You are not going to child traffic 6-year-old boys and girls
Right.
into
No,
vans and white
I
unmarked
agree. No,
vans. You're not going to do it with prostitution. You're not going to be selling drugs.
and someone has
And
to take a stance like you. As a matter of
yep,
fact, what I was thinking is on some of our shows in your neighborhood, maybe we'll invite on some of the police to see if they would come on, which would probably be, I don't know if they would because of, fear of what they might say, or some of the local politicians, your city council people.
well, it's very interesting because the sheriff's here, we know Sheriff Hobart, and he's the county sheriff here. And he says, sure enough, he says the buses are coming up from Texas and coming from Atlanta, and individuals are being dropped off at a little gas station here in South Carolina. Once again, I am extremely sympathetic with the whole situation, but once again, civilized people have got to draw the line. And and the problem is that if we keep acquiescing and keep saying, okay, I don't want to be racist, I don't want to be this, I don't want baloney. We've got to say you're in America now, okay? You can't keep perpetuating the fear and the crime that happened in your home country. You have a country now here of opportunity, and you need to utilize that opportunity. I
Uh,
must say that allowing wholesale thousands of people across the border certainly strains the ability.
I agree with you. That's a worldwide situation because a lot of the people who are coming over the border are not only from Mexico or South America. They're from all over the world. But the thing is, we have no policy of we don't have the people enough people to interview them to give them a pathway to this country. And
Well,
the
one of
old
the
way,
one
the
of
old
the
days, there
issues.
was a pathway, whether it be temporary work permits.
Well, I do know that in this last administration, and we won't talk about the last administration, but one of the policies of remain in Mexico seemed to work because that seemed to stem the tide of a tremendous number of people coming on through. Simply opening up the gates and flooding these local
No,
towns.
there has to be a middle thing because just keeping them in Mexico, let them die in Mexico. We couldn't care.
Well, they're dying across the border, my friend.
They're
They
doing
are
both
dying
ways.
across the border.
I mean, it's a horrible thing, which we maybe one of our shows will more get into depth. Actually, this show I wanted to talk about weather,
Yay!
and let's get to weather because I know I took a look at the weather map
Uh-huh.
uh, for this weekend, and there are temperatures that are like 40 below zero.
Yeah.
20 below zero. They're going to play a football game in Kansas City. I think it's Saturday night. They
Yeah.
predict, I think, between 10 and 20 below zero. Can you imagine playing football?
I really I think at that point I think we need maybe postpone. I think that's asking a little bit too much of our athletes, a little bit too
Yeah,
much.
well, how about 60,000 people standing in an open arena?
Well, I do think that somebody better make a decision pretty fast saying, let's go ahead and just wait until next weekend.
Now,
Somehow or another, because these are the playoffs. I don't think that there are waiting football teams next weekend or the weekend afterwards. I could be
well,
wrong because
it's
I'm
hard
not
to
a football
postpone
person.
because you know, it all leads up to the Super Bowl. This is like you know you know the end of the season leading to the Super Bowl, unless they decide we're going to extend the season into you know, March and April,
Oh, what's wrong with that?
because then you get the baseball people and the basketball people bitching
But
because
they're not playing on football.
the
Football
different
stadium.
seasons. But I can't imagine. I can't imagine going out and well, as I say, at least the football players, you know, have heated seats and they have heaters along the sidelines, but the people in the stands don't have that.
Well, the problem is, have you've been in weather like that? I know that I used when I was a kid in Salt Lake City that I would ski Alta when it was, I was a little baby kid, and we got down to 28 below zero. And
Yeah,
I got to tell you, the cold weather and the cold air coming into your lungs is something. So to be at 40 below
no,
zero, I really think somebody needs to take some responsibility. They need to manning up
yeah,
and postpone this. This is
right.
ridiculous.
I never got to that far below zero, but one of the reasons I came to California, I used to run the Central Park Reservoir in New York.
Oh, interesting.
And I was in training for, you know, I used to train for marathons. But there was one winter, which goes back actually 76, that I would turn one of the corners, you know, of the reservoir, I think it was heading south, and the wind would come, and the wind chill factor was like, you know, -7. I think -5 to -10. And that was cold, but if I worked up a sweat, it was fine. It was when I stopped and I was walking a little bit, I would freeze.
Yeah,
My sweat would turn to ice.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because
And it's
one of the
breathing
things
for your lungs
we
because you could feel it in your lungs.
yeah, you can, and it's very dangerous. We have a house that's built in 1948. So what we've been doing because of the electric costs going up, up, and up, is that we've cordoned off every one of the rooms. Unfortunately, we don't have an open floor plan. Houses in 1948 didn't know anything about open floor plans, which is fine by me. But we're using little space heaters now, and the rest of the house is absolutely stone cold. And we're in this little office area, so it's nice and comfy. But you're right, when that cold air hits you, the human body revolts, absolutely revolts.
Yeah, and it's getting worse. And what which I found out, at least even in the last 2 years, is the wind. The wind is much windier now than it was in you know, when I first got here. The temperatures are always more tepid. But now a wind comes and it's going a regular one, you know, like I think it was like the other day it was 15 to 20 miles per hour in certain areas. You know, I think along the eastern seacoast it was like you know, 60 to 70 miles an hour. And basically it's a lot of it's caused by the warming because of the, you know, when the seas when the oceans get hotter, it's conducive to wind and cold. And you know, I don't know the answer to that one. So,
I don't
well,
know either.
I know the answer, but nobody's willing to do it.
What would the answer be?
Changing fuel.
Oh, we've already changed fuel.
No, I mean, no, we're still dependent on the fossil fuels,
Well,
and no one has developed a really alternative. And with all these brilliant minds that we have, no
Well, I
one.
have to tell you that my husband has a daughter in Austin, Texas, and she reminded us again of the horrific situation that happened. Texas, when we came across the country from California, traveling across the country, the number of the windmills, um, astonishing across Interstate 40, and yet they could not keep up with the cold. So somebody needs to come up with a better idea
Right.
than plowing more and more money into these windmills and what have you. And for example, BP, Petroleum, just backed out of a major contract in New Jersey off the coast. I guess that's where the place that the whales were all coming ashore dead. So yeah, you're right. We've got major problems here, and
Well, that's again, what I see is the earth will survive. Man may not. Mankind may not. Anyway, do you realize that we've used our time up already?
we
Half
did.
hour?
Oh, for
Yeah.
heaven's sake. Did you
And
get
again,
everything
what we're
covered
going to
that you
be,
wanted to cover?
we covered more because,
Oh,
well, next week we'll go into whether it be politics or whether it be weather or whether it be, a global warming. Actually, it's not global, it's part of global warming. By the way, I think it was NASA, one of the agencies said last year was 2023 was the warmest recorded on this planet. And also, I think there was one day in June or July that was the hottest day ever
well, I think you
recorded.
probably they probably also need to check the time of the dinosaurs because that was really, really hot.
Yeah, but that wasn't recorded.
But it was really, really
Oh,
hot.
yeah,
So
I mean, lots
and
of
there
things that
weren't
we
human
don't know.
beings around here to mess
And,
up
well,
the
there was
planet.
also the Ice Age.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I think you have the perfect. I think you have the perfect name, Manning, because you're right. Everything is manning up. Individual responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
Where do you stop blaming, and where do you start working for something?
And
With
taking
that
it, taking
note,
responsibility.
with that note, Deborah, it was fascinating doing a show with you again. I love it,
Good.
and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope everybody listening will enjoy. And send in remarks if you want. It's
Please come back.
do.
I'm gonna set up a probably website, manning-up.com.
Okay.
So I would
Set
like
it
to
up by
have
next week and we can inform our audience. Anyway,
that'd
you're
be great.
listening to Manning Up. And no, actually, it should be you're listening to Manning Up on malcolmpresents.com, a streaming network heard around the world and beyond. And we'll speak to you next week.
And it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Malcolm. See you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.